Welcome to r/IDOWorkHereLady, where employees get mistaken for regular customers. On a quick side note, if you want to share your own stories, please feel free to post them on Reddit on r/RipeStories, which is our own subreddit. If you cannot use Reddit, you can also send the stories to my email. There's a very good chance that I read these stories in a future video. But now, let's dive right in. Rude lady caused her whole store to no longer get free tea. So for background, I worked at a high-end mall, specifically outrageously priced loose leaf tea. I met the owner of the business through my old basketball coach. She married an aspiring businessman who got rich because of his smart investments. Well, one of these investments was this tea shop. This will be important later. We sold a variety of best quality loose leaf tea from around the world. Although it was mostly just retail, we also made drinks for about $5 to $8 depending on the sizes of the cup. Part of our marketing is by going to other stores and offering them free tea. Since we had a lot of leftovers from the samples we used that day, towards the end of the day we would transfer them in cups and give them out for free to neighboring stores. This gave us more customers and the employees are usually very grateful. Well, except this one rude lady. We will call her RL. She worked at one of the big stores. She struts in one day and began to complain how her department never got the tea. She rambles on and on about how they always get it every Tuesday. She does not understand why it's so hard for us to be consistent. RL:
I know you guys always bring us tea, but we didn't get it today.
Me: yeah, those were just a courtesy from the owner. RL:
I know. So why didn't you bring us teas today? I don't understand why that's so hard to do. It's just tea.
Me: ma'am, these teas are actually about $12 per 2 ounces. They are not cheap and we are not allowed to just give them out for free. RL:
well, I know the owner. She always gives me free teas. I want to speak to the manager. You don't know anything. We pay for these teas at the end of the month and I don't see why you're breaking that contract.
She was grasping at things at this point. Me: actually, I am the manager. I know everything that happens with this store. We do not sign those types of contracts. We give out free tea as a courtesy. It's not mandatory, and from now on I think it's in our best interest to no longer give your store free tea. RL realizes she ruined it for everyone.
You cannot do that. I know the owner.
My old coach actually was in the back at this time, since her daughter usually goes to the classes/events held at Microsoft. She slides the door open and walks out to look the rude lady in the eyes. RL:
finally, a grown-up. Can you tell this kid to stop impersonating a manager and being so rude?
Coach: actually, that is my store manager, and I've never met you in my whole life. I think it's best for you to leave. I later on had to relay what happened to my other co-workers and they could not stop laughing. I guess me looking like a teenager does not make me look credible to be the manager. That was honestly one of the reasons why we stopped giving tea out for free. People got too demanding. Guys, I'm curious, is there any beverage like these expensive teas that you like to buy occasionally? I gotta say, here in Europe there's nothing like that because that is way too expensive for me, especially stores like Starbucks. However, when I was in Thailand, the prices there are so cheap that I pretty much bought those type of drinks on the daily, and to be honest, it feels good to support small local businesses. Let us know in the comments if you buy any special drinks and tell us which one is your favorite. Karen versus the voting machine. Herein is the tale of a woman I ran into when I was working as an election official some years ago, either the 2004 or the 2008 election. There were long lines and people were frustrated and tired. Our state was using electronic voting machines and this woman ran into some problem.
Lady, this machine is not working right.
Nobody had complained about that machine before, but in training they said that the machines could crash. I had a checklist to run through in that case. Far more likely though was user error. Me: okay, let me take a look. Lady:
no, I don't want you to see how I voted.
Me: would you be more comfortable if my partner and I both looked? I am X party and she's Y, so we supervise each other. Lady:
no, just fix the damn machine.
Me, ma'am, I cannot fix it without knowing what the problem is. Lady,
Votes are supposed to be private.
me, ma'am, I do not care how you voted, nor will I remember it later. If you won't let anyone look at it, we cannot help you. She screamed wordlessly and stomped off. After a short discussion with my partner, we punched the button that said cast ballot. The machine went through, its tallying beeps and blots, and was ready for the next voter. And that was all she had needed to do. I expect that she complained to anyone who would listen that we
Would not let her vote.
By the way guys, I'm curious, here where I live, my parents have taught me since I was a kid that the right to vote is one of the most precious rights you can have. That's why you definitely have to use it. However, how is it for you? Do you go vote or do you think it's pointless? Let me know your opinions in the comments. I am not hallucinating my treatment. I think and hope this fits here as it relates to someone else, although I was involved. And they did work there. Some years ago I had a short outpatient procedure which caused me to have a serious infection. I was rushed back to hospital by ambulance and spent a total of 10 days there with something verging on sepsis. I spent the first 24 hours in a clinical decision unit, not the nicest of places, but I was running a serious temperature and did not notice much. Rules and targets meant that within 24 hours I had to be discharged or moved to a ward. After 23.5 hours I was on a ward. It was late evening, I was fixed up with a cannula and a drip, antibiotics which in the end did not work, and I settled down to sleep. I was reasonably comfortable and although ill was feeling a bit more normal. I was woken at about 3 AM by the patient in the next bed having an incident which I will gloss over for reasons of delicacy. I looked around to find a large fresh blood stain on my sheets. In my rather restless sleep I had ripped out my cannula, so I pressed the call button. A very nice young guy arrived, the nursing station was in sight from my bed and there was a group of 4 or 5 people there, including the guy who came over, all dressed in black trousers and high-necked black tunics, in addition to 2 nurses who I recognized from earlier. He very efficiently and painlessly reinserted cannula and cleaned me up. I went back to sleep. He did not change the sheet but covered it up to save a major disturbance at that time of night. Next morning after breakfast, 2 nurses came around to change sheets for everyone. Mine were a mess, so I explained what had happened. They looked very wary and said there were no male nurses on the ward. I explained that the guy was in a black jacket. They looked at me strangely and said there were no workers in black uniforms. I insisted that I had been treated by the person I had described, but they would not have it. Eventually, in sweet, calming voices, they started to agree with everything I said. Obviously, they were humoring me. They went on with their work. A bit later I saw them discussing something with the charge nurse with the occasional glance in my direction. I was now getting worried and beginning to doubt myself. Then one of them came back over, beaming uncomfortably. I thought, this is it. She then rather hesitantly explained that a party of student doctors had been touring night shifts the previous night. Unknown to her or her colleague, they had a new design of uniform in black. I was sane after all, and he did work there. By the way guys, I know this is kind of random, but in case you have any relative or any person you know that is in hospital right now, I just want to say that my heart goes out to all of these people, because I know how horrible it is to be in a hospital. Actually, as you might remember, in the last couple of months I was in Thailand, and right in the beginning when I was with my girlfriend, her mother got an epileptic seizure, so I remember how difficult it was to be in the hospital day and night. If you're wondering, now she's kind of fine again, but still it was a shock for us as well. The next story is gonna be from r/Tales from the front desk. Entitled Mother Surprised that I am sold out and cannot sell her a room at 2 AM. For starters, I work as a night auditor in a hotel in Canada. And during certain times of the year, we get incredibly busy and sell out of rooms days in advance. Even if not everybody is in house, because we guarantee rooms to those that pre-book reservations, I cannot sell them on the guests that pre-book. I work night audit, so sometimes I get people walking in looking for a room at 1 AM or 2 AM. This particular night was during the Stampede, which is 10 days when the entire city basically sells out of rooms. We were sold out, but I was waiting for one guest to arrive yet. I had a guy come in and I asked if he was checking in. He said yes, and I asked for his last name and it did not match the one reservation that I was looking for. I asked if he had a reservation. He said
No.
I apologized and told him that this area has a few hotels and motels along the strip and he can try any number of them. I just don't have access to their inventory, so I don't know if they are sold out yet. He said okay and walked out to his truck. I think nothing of it and continue on my night audit work of preparing the next day arrivals. So this takes up some room on my front desk. I don't know what the man said to his wife out in the truck, but in comes our entitled mother. She comes in, strutting her stuff like she owns the place. I asked if I may help her. She replies,
Yes, we need a room for my family.
Me? I'm sorry miss, we are sold out tonight. This is a busy time of year and a lot of hotels sell out in advance. EM?
So you don't have any rooms?
Me? No, I'm sorry. I'm waiting for one check-in, but it is a prepaid room, so I have to guarantee that room for that guest regardless of the time they decide to show up. EM whispers under her breath,
Yeah, right, you're a liar.
Me? Excuse me? EM?
Well, what hotels do have rooms?
She downplays the fact that I heard her be completely rude to me. Me? I don't know what other hotels' occupancies are because I work here and not there. There are 5 other hotels along this strip. I would recommend trying, suggest 2 hotels, as they actually have more rooms available than we do. We are the tallest hotel, but do not have the most rooms because our rooms are more spacious. EM?
Well, can't you just call them?
Me? It would actually be quicker to go there because they will sell it to the first person to come in. All the hotels are side by side on this block, but if you want me to call them, I can. EM in a snarky tone.
That would be great.
Then, under her breath again,
Yeah, it would be great if you actually do your job.
Me? I beg your pardon? And I just look at her while EM just looks back. I google the numbers to the 2 worst hotels and write them down. One is really dingy and the other one is very hard to find and easy to miss. I give her the paper I wrote them down on. Me? I will not call them for you because I think your comments are inappropriate. Maybe next time you will pre-book your rooms when you travel to guarantee a room for you and your family. EM?
So you're not going to give my family a room and leave us on the street? What are we supposed to do? Sleep in our car?
Me? I'm sorry, I cannot kick out guests that are in house already. I have no vacancy. EM?
And what is this stuff?
She starts to grab my registration cards that I was working on for the next day's reservations. Me? That is my paperwork and does not concern you. Give that back. EM holds some of the paperwork away from me.
Well, we need rooms.
Me? I'm going to call the police and get you out of here. I have nothing to sell because I am full house. Give my paperwork back or I will call the police. I pick up the phone. EM drops the paper at the other end of the desk and starts cursing at me while headed to the door. Then she turns around and says,
You should apologize to me.
Me? What for? You are the one disrupting my paperwork after I went above and beyond my duty to Google hotel numbers because you were unable to pre-book a room with a reservation despite knowing you are traveling. Get out! I was fuming at this point and a little loud because it's my fault that she was incapable of booking a reservation. EM went to the truck and they left about 5 minutes later. I don't know why they waited or why she even came in after I informed her husband that I was sold out. During that time, I called my neighboring hotels and told them there's an entitled woman and her husband looking for a room, and I refused them because they were blacklisted from our hotel due to room damage, which was a lie, so they would not rent them a room. I was mad and I feel sorry for their little kids in the backseat of a pickup, but treat people in service with a little more respect and then maybe you won't get screwed. Actually, I have the same feeling that usually people working in the hotel industry especially are almost always very kind people and they do not deserve that someone treats them like this. Either way guys, I'm curious, in case you are ever traveling, do you pre-book hotels or are you super spontaneous? I'm not sure if you know this about me, but I'm pretty much obsessed with planning everything I can, so I pretty much never have relied on random hotels. Instead, I use booking.com or Agoda. Which website do you use? Or do you maybe use old classic travel agencies? Let us know in the comments. The next story is gonna be from r/FHOA. And as I mentioned before, please feel free to leave me some feedback on these new subreddits, especially FHOA, because I feel that this one in particular has a certain potential. However, this story is titled "I Got My Justice Today," posted by user JMoney6. To set the stage, I just turned 30, I have a good job, spend my money wisely, save and invest. I grew up dirt poor and had nothing handed to me in life. Late 20s, the software company I had been at went public and I cashed out and moved back home to Florida. With nothing to do, I started investing in rental properties with a good friend of mine. This started about a year ago with the president of an HOA where I purchased 2 condos. This is a man in his late 60s, thinks he's the second coming of Jesus. From the get-go, he made comments about being young and buying houses, why my parents were not co-signing, or
"Must be nice to have a trust fund."
Both properties had existing tenants, one still there, one left. My business model has been to completely remodel every property between tenants to get the maximum rental income. Construction was hell, literally everything was a problem. Dumpsters smelled, contractors leaving at 5:05 p.m. Being accused of not pulling permits, you name it. The HOA president tried to meddle his way in. I submitted 6 rental applications, all got denied. I was never given a reason, but the board was happy to cash my application fees. I got my company's attorney involved, it took 6 months and many wasted days in a courtroom, but we finally got the books. I had a family friend go through them and found some inconsistencies. I will save the long story, but many thousands of dollars and hundreds of wasted hours this idiot and his 2 crony board members were stealing from the bank account. He was writing fake invoices to his own company. My magician attorney was able to get text logs of them discussing blocking my apps. Mainly, they wanted me to dump the property so they could buy it. Now to the justice boner. We won a sizable judgment against him personally. The HOA's and E&O's insurance subrogated him, and today he put his house up for sale. The house he had been living in for 30 years. To throw salt on the wound, I did put in an offer for 65% of what is asking, though I doubt I will get a response. The best part? We offered to settle for a fraction months ago. We were even willing to include a non-disclosure. The idiot told us to pound sand at every turn. So, Mr. HOA President, F you, I won. The stupid trust fund baby won and you lost. Sorry for the rant, none of my friends or family cares about it and all told me to just walk away. I figured you all may enjoy it. I gotta say, I really enjoyed this story because it is a perfect example for people's ability to stand up against bullies and in the end actually win. If you have any crazy HOA stories, feel free to post them in the comments or on r/RipeStories, our own subreddit. Furthermore, if you have watched until here, please don't forget to post some star emojis in the comments and also like the video if you want to support me. Your support now is more needed than ever because I had to recently remove a lot of videos, so basically we need to get back in the favor of the YouTube algorithm. And the next one is gonna be from r/RipeStories and is titled "My Cat Lucky and the Story About How I Got Her." Posted by Stacy Rose is me. And as you can see on the picture, this story is about Stacy's cat called Lucky, and this story goes very close to my heart because in the past in Thailand I also had a black cat, and I have to say I miss that cat dearly because unfortunately she's no longer with us. But anyway, let's start with the story. The picture you see is my beautiful girl Lucky. I named her Lucky for 2 reasons. The first reason is because black cats are considered bad luck, and the second reason is because she's lucky to be alive. I rescued her when she was a small kitten. I used to have this neighbor that had a big pit bull mixed breed dog that was a mean thing. I don't blame the dog, I blame the owner because I have many friends who have pit bulls and pit bull mixed breeds that are good dogs. Well, my ex-neighbor used to let her dog outside, loose, to crap in my yard, and she never ever picked it up. I would confront her and she would tell me it was not her problem since it was not her yard, even though it was her dog that took a dump in my yard. Her dog would growl, bark, snap at people who would walk by, including children. I knew one day this dog was gonna be trouble. One day I was inside flipping through the channels on TV trying to find something to watch when I heard a little kitten yowling out in obvious distress. I looked out my living room window to see my neighbor's dog mauling this little black kitten that was trying to get away from it. I did not bother thinking and ran outside to get the kitten away from the dog. I was yelling at the dog, but it did not drop the kitten. So I kicked the dog in the head, he dropped the kitten and I scooped the kitten up quickly in my arms. The dog started barking loudly at me and jumping up on me trying to get the kitten. I was yelling at it and had to kick it again to get it off me after he bit my arm. My ex-neighbor happened to see this and ran outside yelling at me, saying,
"How dare you kick my dog?"
And I simply said, "How dare you dog attack a little defenseless kitten?" And she scoffed, saying,
"He was just playing, give him back his toy."
And I turned to her and said, "Get your damn beast off my yard before I call the cops and animal control." She was still screaming at me when I turned around and headed in my house with the kitten shaking in my arms. I brought the little scared kitten inside and brought her in the bathroom to clean her up and to check to see if she had any wounds. During this time I could still hear my ex-neighbor screaming outside, so I decided to call the police anyways. But during this time I guess the old man that lived across the street had already called the police and told them what he witnessed. So I was surprised when the police showed up quickly. When they showed up, I could hear my ex-neighbor yelling at them that I kicked their dog and how she wants me arrested. But I also heard one officer tell her, "Control your dog." Then I heard them knock on my door, so I answered it. The officer introduced himself and asked me if he could come in to talk to me about what had happened. I allowed him inside and told him what happened, including me kicking the dog, to which he said, "Can I see the kitten?" So I led him to the bathroom where she was cowering in fear, still shaking. He asked me what I intend to do about the kitten and I told him I was gonna keep her. He then noticed my arm and asked me, "Did that dog bite you?" I looked down at my arm and said, "Yeah, but I guess I did not notice because I was more worried about the kitten." He told me I needed to go have it looked at and I told him I would after I take care of the kitten. When we went back outside, there was another officer talking to my ex-neighbor and telling her to put her dog on a leash. She demanded they arrest me for kicking her dog and the officer that I talked to simply told her, "Ma'am, your dog is out of control. This young lady was only defending herself and the kitten your dog was attacking." And my ex-neighbor said,
"What do you mean? He was not attacking that stupid girl or that dumb cat. He was just playing."
The officer I spoke to did not look impressed and said, "Ma'am, when a dog is mauling a small animal such as a cat or bird, it intends to kill that animal. If your dog was playing, he wouldn't have attacked your neighbor and bit her. We already got enough information from the gentleman across the street and this young lady. So what we're gonna do right now is call animal control, since you cannot abide by the simple leash law and keep your animal under control." He then walked over to his partner and said something I could not hear to him, then was in the car on the radio. The partner came up to me and took a look at my arm, which by now was starting to hurt and was bleeding, but still I was too angry to worry about it. He looked over at my neighbor and said, "Does your dog has its rabies shots?" She said,
"Yes, why?"
He said, "Good, at least you have done one thing right." He then looked at me and said, "If I were you, I would press charges. Would you like to do that now?" And I said yes. Then my ex-neighbor started screaming and yelling again about how she was gonna sue me and the police, but we did not listen to her. Eventually, animal control showed up to take her dog, who was still barking and snapping at people, and then asked to see the kitten. I went inside and brought the scared little kitten outside so they could take a look at her. The animal control lady said she knows of a good vet I could take her to if I want to keep her, to which I told her that I do want to keep her. She then said, "That little girl is lucky to be alive. If it weren't for you, I think she would be dead by now." She handed me back the kitten and I said, "Yep, she's lucky, so that will be her name." The police officer standing next to me reached over and patted Lucky and said, "Good name. You still need to go and get yourself looked at for that arm. Would you like me to call for someone to take you to the hospital?" I smiled and told him, "No, I can take myself, but thank you." I put Lucky back in the house and put some food and water down for her and went back outside. My ex-neighbor was still yelling and stuff, but I had totally blocked her out by this time. She ended up getting arrested though, because she took a swing at the animal control officer and the first police officer that spoke to me first. I found out later that they had to put the dog down because he was unstable, and even though they were trying to work with him, he would snap, bark, growl and bite at the animal control workers, including the staff at the animal shelter. I was sad about them putting the dog down, but I don't blame the dog at all. I blame the owner. My ex-neighbor had a huge fine she had to pay, and she did spend a couple nights in jail and kept threatening me and everyone else that was involved in the case. She was evicted soon afterwards when the landlord got wind of what happened. Her landlord came over to my house to apologize to me and to give me cat toys and things for the kitten. The landlord is a huge animal lover and was angry that her tenant had a vicious dog that attacked a kitten and me. My ex-neighbor did try to sue later on, but that was thrown out of court thanks to the officers, animal control, the landlord and my neighbor across the street. Plus the pictures of my arm and the kitten in her sad state when I took her to the vet to get taken care of. The judge was not amused and ended up making her pay my vet bill and court fees. I still have Lucky to this day, and now she is a full-grown cuddle buddy. The landlord still comes over to spoil her, calling Lucky her little grand kitty. The neighbor across the street still lives there and has 2 dogs of his own that are very friendly dogs. He often sends over things for Lucky and will sometimes bring his dogs across the street to visit me and Lucky. Lucky used to be afraid of his dogs at first, but eventually got used to them and would try giving them a bath. I do have 4 other cats now, but Lucky is my first girl and I'm very glad I was there for her when she was little. And guys, as you might be able to hear, my voice is already gone again, but I gotta say it was worth it because I loved that story. As I mentioned before, I'm a huge lover of cats, especially black ones, so this instantly took me back to the past when I had a black cat in Thailand. Thank you very much for posting your story, Stacy, and also thank you to everybody else who's still actively posting stories on r/ripestories. In the next couple of weeks/days, I will continue to read all your stories from there, and in case any of my listeners have not visited r/ripestories on Reddit yet, I would suggest you to go there, and if you have a nice story, please feel free to post it. And by the way, it can be anything, whether it is entitled people, I don't work here lady, just no mother-in-law, it does not matter. If it is a nice story, I can read it out in a video, if you want. And the last story is gonna be from r/today I effed up and was posted by user FatherCorn. Today I effed up by giving an old guy a shower. This actually did happen about 3 hours ago. So, I work at an assisted living place like a nursing home, but we don't do anything medical. I give showers sometimes to those who need assistance, and tonight happened to be a particular male resident that enjoys flirting with all the women who work here. I got him sat down in the shower and washed him while listening to his little comments about me. Once we got done, I told him to grab a hold of his walker and get up, so I could start getting him dried off and dressed for bed. He lifted his butt off the seat just a bit and then sat back down. Sometimes he cannot get up on his feet the first try, so I thought, okay, let's try this again. He lifted up just a bit, then plopped back down saying, "Ouch!" I asked him what was wrong and he said,
"Something is pinching me."
I told him, well, just stand up and whatever it is will quit, assuming he had an ass hair stuck in a screw on the shower seat. He tried again and said, oh, and I said, "Name, get up, hun, you're alright." He then said, "My sack is hung, girl," and I just looked at him, puzzled. I peeked my head around under the seat and sure enough, his family jewels had made its way between the cracks of the shower seat and are hanging down stuck. I walkied my coworker on floor with me tonight and we gathered tools to unscrew a board from the seat to set his nuts free. We tried and tried for over an hour. The entire time the old man was just in a fit of laughter. We finally called our repairman to come down to the facility to help us. He arrived about 20 minutes later, just smiling. I was drenched in sweat and at this point it got unfunny. I could not get this 94-year-old dude's balls unstuck. The repairman came in and unscrewed the board enough to where we could move it out of the way. We finally got him out and sat down on the toilet. He cannot wipe himself, so I always have to. My god, his sack was swollen as big as a tomato. I finally got him dressed for bed and all tucked in. This day will be burned into my memory forever. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Keep your giblets safe everyone and have a good night. I would say you definitely need some balls to tell this story. But either way guys, unfortunately this has to be the last story for today. I hope you enjoyed the content, and if you did, please don't forget to post some star emojis in the comments and also like the video if you want to support me. Support now is more needed than ever due to the amount of content I had to remove from the channel, so basically we need to get back in the YouTube algorithm, which is best done by uploading daily videos and liking the videos as well as commenting. Thank you very much for watching and I hope you have a fantastic day, and I see you again tomorrow.